What's going on, everybody? It's Rick from Worms with Rick. I went ahead and have allowed these castings to kind of dry out. I will be adding these to the bin that I hold my castings in. There are some kind of larger dry bits, which I'm okay with to do this harvest. I have another mortar tray here, so I'll just kind of slide and switch them over. And I'm just going to transfer the castings into this mortar tray so I can quick look through to see if I see any worms still in the castings. Okay. So, pretty happy with how the harvest went. You can see lots of worms. Basically right underneath where that last feeding was. It's been a little while, so they're definitely going to be looking for some good food scraps and some new bedding. And you can still see there's a little bit of bedding from the last feeding I gave them. Okay, let me go get their new bedding. So it's a ton of leaves. We'll give it a little mixing. Little piece of trash from the leaves. And then this section here I'm going to add on top of the feeding because I like to try to bury everything with some castings. So for this, we had some watermelon over the weekend. So they're getting some watermelon as well as a nice big handful of pulp. I like to add grit every feeding. It is not a necessary thing to do, but this is just what I do. I also garden, and one of the garden amendments that I like to use is azomite. It's basically, they say azomite from A to Z is the different minerals that are in it. I believe it's over like 60 minerals, and it's something good for the worms and the castings, and then eventually the garden. And then also, with this being a fresher bedding, I do like to add the azomite, and then as it's getting closer to the end, I like to add the azomite again for the worms. This here is just ground up eggshell. When we go ahead and have eggs during the weekend, I save them up. I put about 4 or so in the microwave, heat the shell up, and then crush it and pulverize it to make it easier to break. That then helps the worms with another bit of grit. Also, this can help buffer the pH of the bin. So if it's getting too acidic, the calcium is basic, so we'll bring the pH back down towards the neutral zone. And then also, this is something else that helps the garden out, but it needs to be processed first. If you just take ground up eggshell and throw it all over your garden, it really does nothing. It needs the microbes to break down, to process it, to then make it bioavailable for the plants, and that's what the worms end up helping to do in this situation. So just a little kind of reason of why I like to use it. And as I said, I want to go ahead and cover that with these castings. So now this bin has completely been rejuvenated. The worms have plenty of food. They have plenty of fresh bedding. I'm going to add the coverings back to this bin now. After I add another thing. This is, once again, not necessary, but I do it. I like to do it, especially if you have old items in your pantry. You can basically blend them up and make like a worm chow for the worms. So this consists of expired oats, flour, cornmeal, and a little bit of the pulverized eggshell. Where it's going to take a little time for that watermelon to thaw out. Then it needs to get the bin microbes in there to start attacking and breaking down the watermelon and the food scraps. This, if a worm comes up, they can start eating on this right away. So it's very available right now. And so for this feeding, I fed right there in the middle. Normally I fold this longer end over to say what side of the bin I fed. And it's good. Now we can keep holding that moisture in for the worms, and hopefully I'll be able to check this out in about 2 weeks and we'll see how the bin's looking. If you find this bin interesting, make sure you follow along. This was my original Red Wiggler bin that I started with only about 100 worms, and this was started back in 2020. If you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them down in the comments. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. Everybody have a great day.